Hello everybody. Today we are going to talk about something to do with genetics on artificial intelligence. Okay. Why we will talk about genetics in artificial intelligence? Because we want to develop those kind of algorithms which will work for human molecular biology and genetic engineering and those kind of things. Now, to understand what is genetics, it's you have to know what is called a gene or a genome and things like that. Okay, so this is why we are going into the introductory aspect of what is genetic engineering, what are genes and chromosomes. Okay, as for genes and chromosomes, an inherited factor which determine the biological characters of an organism is called a gene. Okay, a gene is a kind of group of set of chemical strand which are called which are present in the chromosome, which are identified as a kind of the structural formation and the characteristic formation of humans. Okay, characteristic formation of humans. That is why it is called a gene. Gene is basically within the nucleus. Okay. First thing you have to know what is approximately a cell. Cell has a cell membrane. Then they have internal organs like small organs like ribosomes, nucleotides, and things like that. And after that, they have a nucleus. Within the nucleus, there are what are called genes. Okay, these genes are supposed to have some kind of strand kind of structure. A strand means like a two-sided line with interlink, straight right interlink between them. Okay, it's like two parallel lines and perpendicular lines connecting each one of them, like that. Some kind of structure like that. But I don't have a map of this, so I'll show you something how it looks like. So that is called a gene. Okay. First thing, it is derived from chromosome. Okay, chromosome is the thing. Usually humans have about 23 or 23 pairs of chromosomes. Okay, these 23 pairs of chromosomes, what is identified as a kind of the genetic material of the cell. Okay, which completely forms the organism. Organism is like a human. So if you want to form a complete organism of a human, then that gene, that 23 pairs of gene, the chromosome is the one which is determining all the things. Okay. Now first thing you have to understand how genes are formed and things like that. Okay. The formation of how life is formed on Earth. Basically, you have a carbon structure, the tetrahedral structure. I already told you, like this balancing act, which the tetrahedral structure has a circular kind of balancing act, a triangle and the center of a CG falling right and center, and those kind of things. Okay, that is its tetrahedral. So it is able to roll everywhere, or that is it's able to spin like thing. Okay, it has got a spherical kind of thing where it can roll the ball, and that is why it is called carbon has got a special characteristic in those things. That is why you can have all the formations, so many combinations can form, because four directions you can connect so many things, and the molecular things can connect. Okay, now you just having carbon on earth won't help. Okay, it is just rolling. Say you have carbon and it is just rolling, it is not no use. Okay, first thing you have to know how it forms a kind of polymer, or kind of how it forms a protein and things like that. Okay, why it forms a protein, polymer, and other things is because of gravity. Gravity is a kind of thing which is actually the sun. The sun is the center of the solar system. Okay, that has got what is called light. This light movement makes kind of possible structures on life. Okay, we are not going into plant cell right now, but we'll first look into animal cells. How animal cells, why you form a cluster of polymers, or cluster of proteins. Okay, there are different kinds of proteins generated in your body, and those proteins are the one which work on the structure of the body, the growth of the body, the different kind of features of your body and things like that. And the thing which is responsible is the chromosome. There are, I told you, 24 chromosomes. Why there are 24 chromosomes? We take the number of planets on Earth, the cluster planets on Earth, so there are about 8 of them. Okay, these 8 things form something like a spindle wheel. Spindle wheel, have you seen spindle wheel? They have a kind of like threads and other things. These threads are the lines of influence, okay, for the gravity of the earth and other things. Without those, kind of, thread of influence, everything would be flying apart and going off somewhere. But spinning is one thing, another one is because of the spin, it is holding on one place, and other than that, they have a line of influence. Line of influence is something like gravity, and some kind of network structure is formed. Network structure is lines form in network structure. They are like invisible line of force. It's a kind of line of force. So when Earth, Moon, and the Sun align themselves, then they have a straight line kind of alignment, and the thread, the line of force is almost at the thread kind of thing. Okay, now that forms as a kind of core of the thing, a core of the gene. Okay, from there the gene starts spindling is kind of like thing where the threads are interlinked and start spinning on a spindle. Okay, you have about 3 or 4 spindles, and all the spindles spin, and then you have threads on each one of them, and that goes to the core or the center thing, and then you form what is called a cloth or something like flat structure like cloth and things like that. Okay, your blanket, your bed sheets, and those things are formed on different patterns, depending on the number of threads that is coming in, different colors coming in, and all those things. Okay, that is the basic structural formation of what is a gene. And without that gene formation, you don't have life on Earth. And what is the gene replicates into? It starts producing protein synthesis is the basic thing of DNA. Okay, DNA is a deoxy nuclear deoxyribose nuclear acid. It's a nucleic acid. Okay, basically. So those things I don't want to go into details of those things, how DNA is formed, protein synthesis is done, and all those things, how things get replicated, and all those things. Okay, those things we cannot do it right now, but still we can have all the things sometime later. Okay, now let's go into something kind of like what is the other things we are doing. Now the other things we are thinking like regulation of gene expression. Okay, regulation of gene expression. How genes are regulated. Genes can be regulated in any form. Why? What is gene regulation? It's a kind of control structure of. I told you already. We have deep learning, machine learning, and you have the whole thing as a data structure storage and a kind of pattern generated. Pattern. I told you already about the compression and expansion, and kind of like modulation, demodulation, how the waves modulate, demodulate, and things like that. So this is same kind of things which happen here. When you start spindling on something, the line of force of influence do compression and some kind of rarefaction, or it's a kind of wave that compresses, and modulation and demodulation happens. And because of that kind of spinning patterns, you get a pattern or like a bed sheet which has got specific pattern, like the pattern is generated over the bed sheet on a specific kind of spindle, and once you don't have thread on certain spindle, it stops spinning, and the thing is not produced because the clothes are not produced anymore, and that kind of control structure. Okay, so the basic idea, you have a sheet of cloth which has to be produced, and from the thread it comes and spins in the center and starts forming all different kinds of patterns, and within the pattern they already link, and they form some kind of sheet kind of structure with the cloth. The same kind of things, if it is a two-dimensional kind of thing, then carbon forms those kind of sheets, or might be strands. They are called strands in case of the gene is concerned, or the kind of chromosomes, how they are 24 pairs of genes. Why 24 pairs of genes? Okay, there are about 24 chromosomes. Why 24 chromosomes? Is because 3 times 8 is 24, or 3 times 8 is 24. Okay, so we have 3 times 8. 8 is the number of planets, and 3 times 8 is 24. Okay, that's it. The major influences are Moon, Sun, and Earth. Okay, Sun, Moon, and Earth are major. Sun usually it's a kind of fixed point. Fixed point is like kind of like when the gene starts replicating, before replication, or kind of any kind of structural formation, you need some kind of holder. So the sun is a kind of holder of the carbon, and the carbon starts spinning. When the carbon starts spinning, because it is holding the sun's influence, and the sun and the earth is also moving, so that has got a line of force, and all these combined force form what is called a spinning structure, or it forms what is called a gene. Okay, so why we have 24 is because of that. 24 pairs of chromosomes is because of that. Once they form 24 pairs of chromosomes, that is 23 is the actual thing, but it is the 24 can be there, but 24 is 23 is the maximum kind of thing which is generated. But the influence is basically because of the astral objects. Okay, that is the kind of the wave formation on the by the sun interaction, the orbital interaction, and the line of force of interaction. That is why you form life on earth. And the basic thing is carbon. Carbon has got that four tetrahedral kind of structure which allows possibility of life, and other things don't allow possibility of life. It's like if you have hydrogen or something like that, hydrogen forms only one kind of bond, and it can just move anywhere. Okay, you cannot fix the hydrogen and get another link, because it has got valency, only one valency, and you cannot add anything more. But carbon, one itself, four things. You have one side, another side, or something else added, and that forms a link with another carbon, and you can form a huge amount of structural formation. And that is how a polymer is formed, or your protein is formed, or a DNA is formed, or the chromosomes are formed. All these chromosomes and other things are formed. They always divide on a particular plane, is because the division happens because of the influence of the sun, the earth, and the moon. The moon is basically responsible for the division, or you can have the poles of the earth. Okay, the poles of the earth influence some of the cell division. Okay, cell division is like a kind of pole. You hold a cell, and you start north pole and south pole has some kind of line of force, and you start spinning, and then the spindle separates out, like how the electric fields are there around the earth. The magnetic, not so magnet of the earth influences some of the thing. Okay, there are electromagnetic waves going on, and they are strong forces, and that is why there is a separation of cell. Okay, the cells cannot divide without those kind of forces, the north pole and the south pole, or the influence of the moon on the earth, and that gravity is usually very low, and the kind of structural formation to divide cell division is mostly to do with the spin of the earth, and the north and south, the poles, magnetic influence. That is one thing which is very critical for gene mutation, how genes get termination and a starting point and an end point. It's a kind of alignment of the sun's planets and the moon's rotation, the earth's rotation, and the sun's rotation, and how the lines of force act, and that is why that pattern, specific patterns are formed. Okay, these things are that is called an evolution. Evolution also happens like that, because there is a small glitch in the some kind of pattern. Immediately a new kind of species is formed, or in a new kind of characteristic is formed, and these things happen right in the brain also. That is why we are including all these things to how cloning happens within your genetic system, genetic mutation systems, and things like that. Cloning is a kind of like replication kind of things which happen very often. Okay, I don't want to go too much into how the genes are formed and things like that, but that is the basic idea. Okay, through which you are going to write heuristics of genetic computation and things like that. Mostly for humanoid form kinds of robots. Okay, say in the future you want to develop some kind of humanoid kind of robots, then you use these kind of structures. Okay, these structures are very useful in forming what is called a humanoid kind of robots and things like that. Okay, that is why we are going into these kind of things. Okay, transgenic and what are the things, recombinant DNA and those things. If you want to go into complete details of genetics, then you can go genetic engineering is a kind of like cut and paste kind of thing of the genes, and then formation of new kinds of strands, and removing some of the old gene parts if you don't want a specific character like a color of the skin and things like that. So you just changing those things, and then putting it in a power format, and you have a good offspring so that it is healthy and those things. Okay, why some people are unhealthy is because of previous generation and other things, and kind of like it was very drastic and Nowadays, if the health conditions are very nice, then you have a proper gene. If the health conditions are not, living conditions are not right, you don't have a proper gene formation. Okay, usually in olden days the genes were quite nice, and kind of structural formation was nice and things like that. But North and South Pole, you have people are white in kinds of North Pole and South Pole, and this middle region they are dark people. These kind of characteristics are formed because of that temperature and other kinds of things. Temperature is a kind of it's a kind of wave, where the wave that wave influence is there. Kind of whatever be the thing, whatever kind of DNA you form, or whatever kind of vector of gene transfer. Okay, this we want to say. Vector is a kind of thing which is the kind of gene getting transferred. What are the vectors? Vectors within DNA, they have what is called the plasmids and other things, which are called some kind of vectors, or the forces and other things acting on those things. Okay, how the force acting on those things, and how the genes are formed, and those kind of things. Okay, those kind of things are done. That is what the genetic engineering is all about. Okay, let's take transgender and other things. Okay, those things we don't want to see. Let's go into genetic play store and find out what is happening in the thing. Okay, let's see something else. Okay, for now, let's go into kind of so that is why we have kind of artificial intelligence, which is going to use, if we want to form humanoid kind of structures and some kind of intelligence improved on the kind of network formation. I am just giving all the network formation, how the influence the gene, or the influence on the gene is because of the gravity kind of line of force on each one of those genetical structures. Okay, these genetical structures are there, and these genetical structures are formed because light can be formed only those kind of force influences are there, spin is there, and those kind of movement is there, those kind of things. Only then you can form structural formation, and that is why gene. And some of them are regular because of if proper for a specific alignment the gene structure starts, and for a specific alignment the genes are cut off. So that is called genetic startup period, and genetic the polymer strand production, the peptides and other things, the kind of structural formation, start of a gene and ending of a gene and things like that. Okay, there are about there are about billions of DNA, or what you call gene can be formed. Around gene combinations are about a billion. What is that billion number? Is like 2 power 8 power 8. Okay, so that's 8 power 8. 2 power 8 power 8 is the number of combinations that can be formed, which is approximately about kind of 10 power 19, which is half of that is kind of number of combinations that can form. Okay, so you have about 10 power 9, which is basically about a billion kind of structural formations can form. Okay, that is what the gene can, and we have about 100 to 10,000 kind of genetic gene, or like chromosomal the gene patterns, the base patterns can be generated. It's called the base pairs. Base pairs are the ones which create all the different kinds of variations of genetic things. Okay, these is around 100 to 1000 variations. Okay, these 100 to 1000 variations because of the kind of formation and how it can be formed, and when does the gene starts formation of strands for polymer synthesis, or kind of protein synthesis, the DNA synthesis, and how they align themselves on a plane, and then they split each other. That's because of the movement of the sun, the spin of the earth, and plus the kind of the north and south magnetic pole, plus the moon's influence and the other planets' influence on the earth. These planets are the major influence, some kind of the North Pole, South Pole is one major influence of genetic formation. Okay, the spin of the Earth is another major influence of life formation on Earth, and the other one is Moon's influence. The other one is Sun's influence. Then you have the planets' influence. These are the kind of things. That is why you are able to form the so many different kind of structural formation. And carbon is some kind of central core which does all things for easy formation of strands and others. So this is the kind of general view. It's a kind of network structure with threads. You are just making a kind of network with a center point, and you are just like a spindle wheel. The central spindle wheel makes some kind of patterns and things like wave patterns and things like that, and you get a spinning wave, and that is how DNA, protein, and why there is why we have a cell membrane is because of kind of because of the spinning structures. They start interlinking and then form a kind of sheet kind of thing and then make a cover. And the sun is the major influencer on the cell formation, cover. Okay, that is the cell cover is the cell membrane, or the cell wall, those kind of things. Okay, that is sun is the major influence on those kind of wall formation because of the spindle and the spinning and things like that. So when you try to understand genetics, you have to understand the entire environment and how the major influence of physical structures are the lines of force are acting on each one of those carbon structures. Carbon just cannot form structures because valency and other things are how the valencies are created because of these things, and because of the valencies, how they form a kind of gene strands and how life is formed on Earth, those kind of things. Okay, this is basically the kind of planetary influence, the Earth influence, the magnetic influence of the Earth, and those things are all involved in the whole thing. But it's quite complex, so I don't want to get into those things right now. But the basic idea of how the gene works, why gene gets terminated, why gene starts, why there is replication. Replication is basically because I told you the spinning of the Earth or the moon's influence on Earth. This is the basic thing of replication or cell division or the cloning and other things. Okay, another one is the major influence is the kind of strand formation is because of the Earth, the pulling of the gravity of the moon, sun, Earth, and other planets like Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Okay, Pluto's influence is a little bit, which mostly kind of formation of the cover, the nuclear membrane. Okay, the nucleus has got another membrane. It's called the nuclear membrane, and it's got a cover like thing which protects the nucleus also. That is kind of like another structure which is formed because that kind of structure is because of the kind of spinning that happened because of the moon's influence. It's a kind of moon's influence which forms the nucleus, and the Pluto's influence which forms for Pluto and the sun is influence which forms the cover of the cell membrane. Okay, the cell membrane is formed because of sun and Pluto influence, and the nuclear the sun and the moon influence, and the sun and the Pluto influence forms what is called the outer cover of the cell. Okay, those are the cell membrane. Okay, so these are some kind of basic ideas, but we have to just work on how the network works and those kind of things. Okay, we are not going into details of those things, how it is actually working, who was done some kind of research work, those kind of things. We don't know anything about much of genetical engineering right now, but how the basic thing, how it works, why inheritance is there, and those kind of things. Why there is evolution. Evolution means it's some kind of spinning, okay, some kind of protein synthesis, and the gene transfer and things like that. Okay, those kinds of things. It's a kind of spinning wheel and kind of line of this thing force, and how it mostly gene termination happens because of when you have lines of force crossing each other. At what point they have a cutoff. Okay, so that is how the genes get terminated. Lines of force is like if the sun, moon, and the earth on a line, and Jupiter is about 50 degrees or something like that, the angle, or a 90-degree angle. That is the time when 90 degree to the line of force of earth, moon, and the sun. That is the point when the gene gets cut off. Okay, so that is kind of the gene synthesis. There's a starter also, and there's an ender also. That's kind of a line of force of influence which starter and ender is there. But these things are all quite complex, but I don't know that is a specific way it was formed, fashioned for form. Okay, let's go into something else right now. We saw some of the genetics, how things are formed and all those things. Okay, this is the kind of structure. You can read up some of the things if you want to know. But how the planetary system, the solar systems, or the kind of other things influence the planets, the universal objects, the space objects and other things. They influence life on Earth. It is how they create life on Earth and things like that. It is quite a complex thing, but we don't have a complete theory based on it's a kind of theory, but why genes mutation is there, gene termination is there, why there's cloning, why we have diseases, those kind of things are all into something to do with genetics. And you can look up those things if you go into some of the books and then find out what are the things and kind of thing. But I don't have a thing right now, so let's just see how things are working, and we are just going into those kind of things. Okay, now how I told you about deep learning, machine learning, and how AI is influenced on those things. Okay, in future if you want to develop those kind of humanoid kind of structures, if you want to set some kind of humanoid kind of such robots and other things, you can use genetic mutation genes can be used for computation plus kind of those kind of things formation. But we don't have a complete theory, so that once a complete theory is formed, we can use those kind of structures in your AI recognition, pattern recognition, and all those things. Okay, pattern recognition, machine learning architecture, machine learning algorithms, and how genetic influences machine learning algorithms and other things. Okay, we can do all that, but right now we don't have all these things. Okay, so we are not kind of now kind of stuck with some other things, and we have all the things. Other apps doesn't work. Okay, these are kind of things. Okay, now we go into archaeogenetics of related topics and other things. Okay, some archaeogenetics is another kind of archaeogenetics. This is a kind of an early work, DNA structures and other things. They have done some kind of preliminary work in the earlier days. How the influences form, those kind of things are there. So you can read up all the things. They have run quite a bit of things in genetics. They have gone too much of genetic engineering, but genes how kind of things are formed. Okay, now we don't have a complete basic kind of version so that you can use those things, but right now we are not going into those kind of things right now. Okay, let's get out of here, and then education. So this is the kind of things where you can go. Okay, I'm just showing you some of the things of how the things are formed and kind of like what are the different kinds of influences they use, how the nucleus looks like and all those things. Okay, now that is for basically for reference for AI. Okay, artificial intelligence I already told. That's mostly for AI. These kind of genetic structures is better. You learn some of the genetic structures, how gene termination happens. Those kind of algorithms you can use. Genetic algorithms are very easy to use, and if you use genetic algorithms, structural formation of the network is very easy, and that is why intelligence can. Now if you go to Mars and all, the genetic structure will be a different, the cell division will be totally different. Okay, on Earth you have only binary kind of division. On Mars you might have a trinary kind of division, because there you have 2 or 3 moons on Mars. Okay, though Mars doesn't have a core also. Okay, the iron core, the magnetized iron core, so that it can form a proper structure. Okay, so our cell division, I already told you, it's kind of because of the north and south pole of the Earth, the polar influence or the magnetic lines of force, and the same kind of force may be there at Mars, but the amount of influence is not quite high to fix a particular kind of thing, and then a particular kind of structure. It might be forming an alien structure, but mostly if you take a human body out there, it might be forming a different kind of alien structure. Okay, alien structures can be formed on Mars, Jupiter, and different kinds of things, because the lines of force are quite high. In Jupiter, the lines of force is high, and the cell division might be rapid. Okay, if you go near and live near Jupiter, your cell division cells start getting fast. Okay, you might even die, or genetic influence is extremely high, or the spinning influence is extremely high. So you have to understand the planets to understand the humans. Okay, the spinning of the Earth and other things. Okay, the same kind of genetic algorithms you can use, but life is a specific form of genetic algorithms you use, which has some kind of special intelligence and other things. The intelligence is formed, how the reading, writing skills, the pattern recognition skills, all these things are used. but we don't want to get into too much of the universal concepts and all those things, because it's quite a bit of high topic which I don't want to. I just want to focus on how genetics can be used on artificial intelligence, how it can be used as a kind of like a tool for forming network formation. I already TCP/IP kind of network and network structures and other things. You can just read up on the CC and Cisco certified network programming and things like that, and how we can form genetic kind of structures to do some kind of intelligence. I told you mostly the learning habits because of machine learning and other learning. You can use genetics also in the application. The kind of network structures can be used because our human body itself is using those kind of structures for doing all the intelligent work, the movement of the hands, and these are all movement of the hands and other things. The machine learning is the aspect of the algorithms. You can write, you can learn all these algorithms of machine learning algorithms and genetic algorithms. Using genetic algorithms also you can be used in machine learning and other things. Okay, now let's uh, stop it for here. And I just wanted to know how this was a topic on how life was formed and things like that. So it's kind of like preliminary work on artificial intelligence, how genetics can be used. Okay, for now it's over. So let's look at some other time how networks are formed and things like that. Okay, thank you. Bye now.